Any equation of the form y equals mx plus b has a property called slope. It's the number here, which is represented by an m, and it has this formula that I wrote down here. In example 1, we have y equals 2x minus 4, the line from our previous lesson. And since the number here is a 2, that would be its slope. I'm going to plot that line again. And what we'll do is choose a couple of points on its line to determine the slope from this equation, just to make sure it matches up with this 2 here, and then talk about what that number actually means. So here's our line, y equals 2x minus 4, which last time we got by coming up with a table of values. But we also focused on two very important points on this line. One of those was the x-intercept, which was right here at 2, 0. And then the y-intercept, which was this point right here, which is 0, negative 4. What I'd like to do is plug this information into the slope formula, and hopefully we simplify it down to the value 2. What this formula tells us is the rise over the run. That is, like, how much is your graph going up versus how much it's moving over. For this formula to work, we have to define two different points, and that's exactly what we have here. We have 2 points. So I'm going to label them x1, y1, and x2, y2, and the order does not matter, so I'm going to call this one x1, y1, and this other one x2, y2. And all I'm saying is that this 2 will be x1, this 0 will be y1, this 0 is x2, and this y is y2. If I take that information and plug it into this formula, let's see what happens when we simplify it. So let's see, m is equal to y2 minus y1. That's this number minus this number. That is negative 4 minus 0. I then divide that by x2 minus x1, which is 0 minus 2. And if I simplify this, what do we get? The top is negative 4, the bottom is negative 2. Dividing two negative numbers is positive, in this case positive 2, and if you'd like, you could even leave it as 2 over 1. So, okay, that's good. This formula gave us 2, which matches up with the number that appeared right here. So everything that we've defined is true. So what this number now means, it tells you if your line is increasing or decreasing. If you get a positive number, that means your graph is going up. And the number itself actually tells you how fast it's increasing. So here we have a rise of 2 and a run of 1. This means if you start at this point here and you go over 1 and up 2, you end up on the line again. And this is always true for every points that you pick. So like if I start here and I go over 1 and up 2, I end up on the line. Over 1, up 2, over 1, up 2, and that trend continues forever. You could even go backwards. If you go backwards 1, you'd go down 2, backwards 1, down 2. So that's what slope is telling us. If you get a positive number, it means the graph is going up. And the number itself is like how much is it increasing by. So for example 2, same idea where I took the line from the previous lesson, 2x plus 3y equals 6. I want to just put its graph back, put a couple of points on it. I'll use the x and the y-intercept, and what we're going to do is talk about the value for the slope. So here's our line from last time, and I've labeled the 2 points, the y-intercept and the x-intercept, in green and red. So just to put those back up here, let's see, we have that the y-intercept is 0, 2, and the x-intercept is 3, 0. Before we actually even use the formula to get slope, I notice that this line is decreasing, so I'm expecting the value to be a negative number. And really, you could just use the graph to figure this out if you understand this rise over run idea, like how do I go from one point to the other. But really for this lesson, I just want to focus on using the formula. So to do this, I'm going to call this point x1, y1, and this point x2, y2, and just directly plug this information into my formula for slope. slope is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So let's see, y2 minus y1 is 0 minus 2. And then x2 minus x1 is 3 minus 0. And when I simplify this, I think it makes sense to leave it as a fraction, but it's going to be negative 2 in the top, positive 3 in the bottom, and maybe I'll just move that negative out front and write this as negative 2/3. This is a good thing that we got a negative number. That means the graph is moving downward, and here it's going down 2 and over 3. So let's see if that is true for this equation here. If I start at this point, if I go down 2 and over 3, I end up on the line again. But this is true for any 2 points that you, or really any pair of points that you travel between. So like here I go down 2 and over 3, down 2 and over 3. Okay, my sketch isn't, perfect, but had I used like graph paper and a ruler, I think it would match up perfectly. But this is the idea of slope. It's a number that tells you is your line moving up or down, and by how much.